I was 73 when I sat in a courthouse hallway, a summons in my hands, my heart thumping like it wanted out. My own son was suing me for $600,000, and his wife was asking the court to put me under a conservatorship as if I was a child who needed permission to breathe. She had even called Adult Protective Services and told them I was confused and paranoid. In that building, family turned into strangers with folders, and love turned into a lawsuit. They thought age made me easy, that I would fold sign and hand them a mansion on the water. I had spent 30 years as a fire captain, and I learned something simple. Pressure reveals the weak point. When we finally stepped into the courtroom, the judge asked one question, just one, and my son could not answer without exposing the lie that started everything. Later, I looked back at my kitchen table and saw where the betrayal truly began for me. That Tuesday morning in Annapolis started quiet, the kind of quiet that settles in after a funeral and never fully leaves. Damp air rolled off the Chesapeake and clung to the porch rail. I made coffee strong enough to wake the dead, then sat with my hands around the mug, watching light creep across the kitchen floor. Linda's photo sat by the window, her smile frozen in a moment before sickness. After she died, I kept routines like a man keeps rails on a staircase, not because they are pretty, but because you need them. I lived on my pension and what I had saved. No secret fortune, no big inheritance, no cushion for anyone else's dreams. The house was paid off because we were stubborn about it year after year. That house was my safety net, and I did not share nets with people holding knives anymore. I had spent 30 years in the fire service, and retirement did not erase the habit of fixing what squeaked. That week, my storm door had started slamming hard enough to rattle the hallway frames, and the sound felt like a warning I could not ignore. I set out my screwdriver, a tin of screws, and a new hydraulic closer from the hardware store. Tools were honest, and honest things calmed me. I knelt by the door, lined up the bracket, and drove the first screw home until the metal kissed wood. The door eased shut almost politely, and I let myself enjoy that small victory. I was reaching for the second bracket when the side door opened without a knock. The latch clicked, and my shoulders tightened before my brain even caught up. In my house, a man knocked. Linda had knocked even after years of marriage. Brian stepped in first, 44 and broad-shouldered, wearing that tight smile he used when he wanted something. He carried a paper cup of coffee, but not one for me. Behind him came Kendra, perfume and confidence, dressed like she had just left a showing. Her smile was bright, but her eyes kept moving, measuring the room, the mail on the table, the faded rug, the framed photo of Linda. She carried a leather folder under one arm and a gift bag in the other, the kind of bag from a store where you pay extra for a fancy handle. "Dad," Brian said, forcing cheer, "how are you doing?" I kept my hand on the screwdriver and said I was fine until you walked in uninvited. Kendra laughed softly and set the bag on my counter like a pawn. I could feel manipulation creeping into the air. "You always have to be dramatic," Kendra said, and she gave Brian a look that told him to keep moving. She pushed tissue paper down, and I saw the neck of a bottle I did not want. "You did not have to do that," I said. "We wanted to," Brian answered, but his eyes flicked to her in a way like he was waiting for permission to breathe. Kendra drifted to the center of my kitchen, the way she did at Thanksgiving, the way she did at Christmas, turning my home into her stage. So she said, "Big news." I wiped my hands on my jeans and waited. Big news from her usually meant expensive news. Brian cleared his throat and said they had found a place, a real place, a forever place, and he sounded rehearsed. He did not say where, and that omission made my stomach tighten. Kendra opened the leather folder and slid a thick packet across my table. The paper was crisp and heavy, the kind that carried authority just by being thick. A glossy photo sat on top a wide white house with columns and water behind it. The word mansion popped into my head, and I hated that it did. Isn't it something she said, bright as a sales pitch? 4 bedrooms, an office, a guest suite, and a dock. You could come over anytime, fish, relax, enjoy the view. I did not touch the photo. I looked at Brian and asked how much. He swallowed and said 600,000. The number felt unreal, like it belonged on the news, not on my kitchen table. Kendra tapped the top page and said it was just mortgage paperwork, nothing serious, just steps. I could hear my pulse slow and heavy. I pulled the packet closer and scanned down to the borrower section, expecting my son's name. Instead, I saw Thomas Rourke typed neat and confident, my date of birth, my address, and the last 4 digits of my social security number. My mouth went dry. Those were not details you guessed. I flipped another page and saw the projected payment escrow insurance, a timeline that stretched past the age most men in my station ever reached. I pictured myself 85, still paying for someone else's dream. "Brian," I said, "why is my name on this?" He started talking fast, saying the lender loved my credit, that it would start in my name, and move later, that it was temporary. Temporary was a word people used when they wanted you to stop asking hard questions, and I could smell smoke. Kendra watched me like a dealer counting cards. Kendra leaned forward and said, "Tom, you are set. No debts, no car payment. You have saved enough. It is time to help your family. Parents do this. Good parents do this." She said it, like a collector said balance due. I kept my eyes on Brian because looking at her felt like stepping into a draft. Brian tried to soften it, saying they had earnest money down, that the agent expected it, that the closing date was coming. He did not say, "Please help me." He said, "We already told people." My chest tightened with a familiar disappointment. I had heard rumors that his company had cut hours, that credit card debt was piling up, that Kendra's commissions had slowed, but none of that was my doing. The father in me wanted to rescue him. The man in me recognized manipulation and injustice, and I stayed still. "Brian," I said, "are you asking me to take on a 30-year mortgage so your wife can have a mansion?" He hesitated, and that hesitation was the betrayal. "We already put down earnest money," he said, "and we told the agent you were on board." Kendra added, sharp and sweet, "You can afford it, you just do not want to. That is selfish." Heat rose in my neck, and I swallowed it down. I had seen what panic did to people, and I knew anger would make me look unstable to the wrong eyes. A lawyer's eyes, a judge's eyes, the kind of eyes that decided whether an old man could run his own life. I folded my hands so they would not shake. "No," I said. Brian blinked. "No," I repeated slower. "Not for you, not for her, not for anybody." Word felt like a door. Kendra's bright mask slipped. She stared at me like she was memorizing my face for later. "You are really going to do this," she said after everything. She gathered the packet and the glossy photo like she was collecting evidence. "I have a lawyer," she added. "We will handle this like adults." Brian looked at his shoes, then at her, and went quiet. That was another kind of betrayal, quiet or worse. They left fast. The side door banged, a car door slammed, the engine revved, and the tires hissed on the wet street. I stood there with my coffee going cold, and I felt peace leave with them. I walked to my desk and checked the drawer where Linda's papers lived, my will, her will, the trust folder, insurance. Everything was still there. Still, my stomach knotted because a home could burn down without flames in a heartbeat. When I went back to the table, I saw a smaller envelope I had missed, at first tucked under the mortgage packet like it had been planted there. A title company stamp sat in the corner, and the word emergency was printed across the front. My name was on it again, neat as a threat. For a second I stared, hearing Linda's voice telling me to read every line and trust no one rushing me. I slid a finger under the flap and opened it just enough to see the first page. One line was enough. It said the lender had received authorization to proceed, and it listed my name as the authorizing party. My mouth went dry. My hands stopped shaking, not because I was calm, but because something inside me went cold, and I understood this was already moving without me, and nothing felt safe anymore. Wednesday morning came in wet and gray, and I woke up with my teeth clenched, like I had been chewing on a nightmare. The house was quiet, but it was the wrong kind of quiet, the kind that makes you listen for trouble. I tried to act normal. Shower, shave, coffee. It did not work. All I could see was my name on those mortgage papers printed where Tyler's should have been, $600,000 of debt wrapped in Marissa's smile. The landline rang while I was rinsing my mug. I answered on the second ring. "This is Henry Caldwell." "Mr. Caldwell," a woman said, warm and practiced. "This is Dana with Palmetto Horizon Lending. I'm calling to confirm a few details for the mortgage file we received yesterday." My stomach tightened. "Mortgage file," I said. "Yes, sir. The application in your name for the property on Wando Ridge Drive. We need to verify employment history and intended occupancy." "I did not submit any mortgage application," I said. A pause, polite but cautious. "I'm sorry, Mr. Caldwell." The packet shows it was started online and finalized in person yesterday afternoon at our Mount Pleasant branch. Mount Pleasant was 40 minutes from my place. I had not been there. I had been at home trying not to turn into the kind of man who distrusts his own family. "Dana, I said, I need you to stop that file right now. Someone is using my identity. Understood, she said. I have to document suspected identity theft. Have you shared personal information with anyone, perhaps a family member? Yes, I said. My son. She verified my date of birth and partial social security, then asked a security question. Mother's maiden name. I answered, because refusing would not protect me. Dana's voice softened. The applicant answered that correctly too, she said. Mr. Caldwell, there is also a letter of authorization attached to the file, a power of attorney granting authority to Marissa Caldwell Hayes to act on your behalf for financial transactions. For a second, I could not speak. My wife's surname had been Hayes. Marissa had taken it when she married Tyler, and now she was using it like a key. That power of attorney is fake, I said. I never signed it. Dana did not argue. I'm locking the file and escalating to fraud review, she said. Please place a credit freeze today and contact your bank and local authorities. Local authorities. Calling the police about your own child is a sentence that does not belong in a decent man's mouth, but it was sitting there anyway. I hung up and called my bank. After menus and holding a young man answered, Fraud Department, this is Malik. Malik, I said someone is using my identity. I need to know if there has been unusual activity. He verified me and put me on hold. When he came back, his tone had changed. Mr. Caldwell, we blocked 2 online login attempts last night, he said. Incorrect password, then a password reset attempt that failed because the verification email did not match your account. My pulse thudded behind my eyes. Where did it come from? I asked. Charleston area, he said. Desktop browser? Charleston was where Tyler and Marissa lived. It was also where Marissa did most of her work, always smiling, always networking, always acting like she owned every room. Anything else? I asked. A new payee was added to your bill pay list 2 days ago, Malik said. It was removed this morning when our system flagged it. The payee name was Seaside Legal Consulting. No payment was sent. Legal Consulting. So the mortgage was not the only play. There was a lawyer in the background and a plan to make me look like the problem if I refused. I told Malik to lock down my accounts with extra verification and a verbal passphrase. Then I did what Dana told me. I froze my credit and wrote the confirmation numbers on a legal pad, hands steady and stomach sick. I checked my mail early, chasing something ordinary. A thin envelope from a law office about my brother Frank's will sat among coupons. I brought it inside, set it on the counter, washed my hands, and when I turned back, the envelope was gone. I tore through the kitchen like a full trash drawers under the newspaper. Nothing. The absence felt deliberate, like someone had practiced being invisible in my house. I went to my file cabinet, the one that held my will and the probate folder for Frank's estate. Frank had run Cooper Marine Supply on the water for decades, and he had trusted me as executor because I did not play games. A buyer had made an offer for the family business, and the deal was moving fast. The probate folder sat slightly out of place, pushed back like someone had grabbed it and shoved it in again. My chest tightened. I opened it, and my hands went cold. The letter from the buyer's attorney was missing the one with the proposed signing date and terms. My notes were gone too. I sat down hard and stared at the empty space where those papers should have been. Marissa's voice from yesterday ran through my head. You've saved enough. It's time to help your family. It had never been about love. It had been about leverage. My phone buzzed, a message from Tyler short enough to fit on one line. Dad, why are you making this so hard? The old reflex tried to rise, call him, fix it, talk it out like we used to. Then I remembered the fake power of attorney and the lender saying my file was finalized in person. I typed one sentence back, slow and careful. Do not use my name for any loan or legal document. Do not contact any lender on my behalf. I took a screenshot and saved it. The fact that I had to build evidence against my own son felt like swallowing glass. Tires crunched on gravel outside. I looked through the front window and saw my sister Linda on the porch, soaked in a raincoat, arms crossed, face set, like she had driven straight through the storm on purpose. I opened the door, and she stepped in without waiting. Henry, she said, you look like you have not slept. I haven't, I said. Her eyes swept the kitchen, the open drawer, the folder in my hand. Tell me, she said. I told her everything. Lender bank, missing mail, missing probate papers, Tyler's text. The more I spoke, the more it sounded like a twisted family drama you hear about at Christmas and swear could never happen to you. Linda pulled out her phone. Marissa texted me last night, she said. She wanted a copy of Frank's will. She said you were forgetting things and she was scared you would lose it. Linda scrolled and read the next message, her voice flat. If you do not help, I will tell the probate judge Henry is being manipulated. The buyer will back out. Then nobody gets anything. Extortion, I whispered. Last Thanksgiving dinner, Marissa had sat at my table like she was taking inventory. She asked about Frank's company, then laughed and said, families should be fair, no favoritism, as if she had not spent my son's wedding whispering corrections into his ear. My parents would have recognized her kind immediately, the sweet voice with the sharp hook underneath. Tyler just kept nodding eyes on his plate, like agreement was easier than truth. I remembered that night now and felt a bitter clarity. By Christmas, she was asking what happened if I got sick. This was not a sudden request for help. It was a slow build, a secret planned manipulation dressed up as concern, and it had been growing right under my roof. Linda nodded. She is aiming at the inheritance and the family business, she said, and she is using Tyler like a battering ram. I leaned on the counter. What do I do? You stop protecting him, Linda said. You call your lawyer today. You tell probate your file was compromised. You change locks and codes. You document everything. Because the next move will be conservatorship, and they will tell a judge you cannot manage your own affairs. The word affairs made my skin crawl. Linda walked to the front door and ran her finger along the deadbolt plate. She frowned and pointed. Fresh scratches around the deadbolt, she said. Someone tried this lock. My throat tightened. Tyler had a key. Marissa had a key. If someone was testing the lock anyway, it meant desperation or rage or both. Before dark, we changed the locks and moved my important papers to a safe place. After that, I pulled up the doorbell camera footage. On Monday afternoon, a day Tyler claimed he was buried at work. His truck sat in my driveway. Marissa stepped out with a tote bag light when she came in heavier when she left. She looked over her shoulder before climbing back into the truck. Linda watched the clip and said one quiet sentence that made my stomach drop. They have been in your house more than once. Night fell. The rain stopped. Near midnight, my phone buzzed with a motion alert. I opened the camera feed. A figure stood on my front porch, not knocking, not leaving a package, just standing there too long, head angled toward the door, like they were listening for my breathing. The porch light flared, and the person stepped back, face hidden, then walked off the edge of the frame. I sat in the dark, with my phone in my hand, and understood what I had been resisting all day. This was no longer a family argument. This was a campaign. Morning light didn't make my house feel safer. It only made the quiet feel louder. I hadn't slept so much as I drifted in and out, snapping awake at every creak. When I finally got up, I did what I always did when something started failing. I checked the basics. Deadbolt chain, windows, back gate. Everything looked normal, which meant someone had been careful. Linda showed up early, like she'd been waiting for permission to kick a door in. She didn't bring sympathy. She brought a notebook, a pen, and that look that said, "Stop hoping and start moving." "You look like you've been in a wreck," she said. "I feel like I have," I told her. "Show me," she said. We watched the camera clips together at my kitchen table. A raccoon, a cat, wind. And then a few minutes after 3, a man stepped into frame like he belonged. He didn't hurry. He didn't hesitate. He stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, staring right at the camera. My throat tightened. "That's Tyler," I said. Linda leaned closer. "He wants you to know he can still reach you," she said. Tyler reached under the flower pot by the railing, lifted it, and slid something out. My spare key. The same spare key I'd hidden years ago, back when family meant help, not leverage. He held it for a moment, like a trophy, then put it back and walked off without knocking. Linda exhaled through her nose. "So now we know what kind of game this is," she said. "I changed the locks yesterday," I said. "Every door." "Good," she said. "But locks won't stop them from trying to poison your name." She opened her notebook and started listing things the way she used to plan Thanksgiving dinner, brisk and matter of fact. "Lawyer first," she said, "then police report, then probate. Frank's estate is the pressure point and Marissa knows it." Hearing my brother's name steadied me. Frank had built Caldwell Marine Supply from nothing, and before he died, he'd made me executor because he trusted me to do the hard, boring, honest work. Close accounts, pay what needs paying, sell the business clean, protect the inheritance so it didn't get chewed up by bad decisions. And now my son and his wife were treating that work like a prize they could grab by pushing me over. We drove downtown. Linda insisted on driving. She said my hands were too tight on the wheel. I didn't argue. Randall Price's office sat above a pharmacy, the kind of place where everything smelled faintly of disinfectant and paper. Randall met us at the door, took one look at my face, and didn't waste time on small talk. "Henry," he said, "tell me everything from the beginning." I did. The lender calling to verify a mortgage file in my name, the mention of a power of attorney I never signed, the missing probate papers, the suspicious email activity, the porch video. Linda added the parts I would have softened. "They're not asking," she said. "They're taking." Randall listened like a man who'd seen this before and hated it every time. Then he folded his hands and spoke carefully. "This isn't just family drama," he said. "This is elder financial abuse, and it gets worse when the first attempt fails. The next move is usually control. They claim you're confused. They claim you're isolated. They claim they're scared for your safety. Then they ask a judge to give them authority over your money and your decisions." My stomach tightened. "Conservatorship," I said. Randall nodded. "Exactly," he said. "And once that accusation is filed, it becomes a stain whether it's true or not. So we build the paper trail now, before they get to write the story for you." He slid a form across the desk. First, police report for identity theft and forgery. Second, written fraud notices to the lender and your bank with that report number attached. Third, we notify the probate court that someone may be trying to interfere with your duties as executor. Then he turned his laptop toward me. "And fourth, we address this," he said. An email thread was open on the screen. The buyer's attorney for Caldwell Marine Supply had sent routine questions. The replies were from an address that looked like mine, but the wording wasn't. Too polished, too cheerful, like someone pretending to be a kindly old man. The last email said I was overwhelmed, my memory wasn't good lately, and my son would be assisting with decisions going forward. It asked to delay the sale and redirect communication to a new contact. My vision narrowed. "That wasn't me," I said. "I know," Randall said. "That's why it matters. Someone accessed your email and they used it to plant a record that you're forgetful. That's not accidental. That's groundwork." Linda leaned in, eyes hard. "She's setting you up," Linda said. "She's setting up the court, the buyer, everybody." Randall nodded. "If the sale stalls, creditors get nervous and the buyer can walk," he said. "If the estate looks mismanaged, someone can petition to replace you as executor. And if they replace you, they gain access to the very thing they're circling the inheritance. The business proceeds, the whole family business. Legacy your brother trusted you to protect." I sat back in the chair and felt a cold clarity settle in. This wasn't just about a mortgage. It was about control. Randall slid another page across the desk. "Your brother anticipated conflict," he said. "Frank included a no contest clause in the will. Anyone who challenges in bad faith risks losing their share, and he restricted distributions until probate closes. Cooperation and honesty matter. A judge will care about that." Frank had seen the flaw in my son before I did. That truth sat in my chest like a weight. Before we left, Randall looked me straight in the eye. "Do not meet them alone," he said. "Do not let them inside. Do not argue on the porch. Let them talk. Let them slip. Calm is power in court." It felt wrong, because for 40 years I solved problems by speaking plainly and standing my ground. But this problem wasn't metal and concrete. This was my own blood trying to turn my life into a lever. Linda drove us straight to the police station. No lunch, no stopping to breathe. The officer who took our report didn't look shocked. That almost made me angrier. She asked for dates, names, the lender, the suspected email access, and the porch footage. I gave her everything. She printed a case number and slid it to me. "A fraudulent loan application is identity theft," she said. "Forging authority documents is serious. Interfering with probate communications is fraud. Your attorney will move faster than we can, but this report gives you a record that starts today. Record, proof, a line in the sand." On the drive home, Linda's phone buzzed. She read the text, and her mouth tightened. "They know you went to Randall," she said. She turned the screen toward me. A message from Marissa. "Tell Henry to stop playing games. We can settle this as family. If he keeps pushing, we will be forced to take steps for his own protection." "Protection," I said, and the word tasted like a threat. Linda stared out the windshield. "That's her favorite costume," she said. "Concern. She wears it like a badge while she steals." When we pulled into my neighborhood, Tyler's truck was waiting near the curb, engine running. My chest tightened, but my feet still carried me out of the car. I was tired of being hunted in my own life. Tyler stepped out, hands open, like he wanted to look harmless. His eyes were red. He looked exhausted, but he also looked angry, like I'd insulted him by saying no. "Dad," he said, "why are you doing this?" I kept my voice flat. "You were on my porch last night," I said. "I saw you on camera. You took my spare key from under the pot." Tyler blinked too fast. "I was checking on you," he said. "Checking on me by grabbing a key like you have a right to it." Marissa's SUV rolled up behind him. She stepped out wearing sunglasses even under a gray sky. She moved like she owned the street. "Henry," she said, smiling, "this is getting dramatic." Linda didn't let her charm land. "Dramatic is putting a mortgage in his name," Linda said. "Dramatic is hacking his email and trying to derail probate." Marissa's smile stayed in place, but her jaw tightened. "We were trying to solve a problem," she said. "Tyler and I have obligations, a mortgage. A wife deserves security." "A wife deserves a husband who can pay his own bills," I said. Tyler flinched like I'd struck him. Marissa stepped closer, voice lower. "You promised to help," she said. "You talked for years about taking care of family. You encouraged us. Now you're acting confused and hostile, and people will start asking why." There it was, the trap. If I got angry, I'd be the unstable old man. If I stayed calm, I'd look weak. I took a breath and held the line. "I never promised to buy you a house," I said. "I never promised you my signature, and I never gave you the right to speak for me." Tyler's face twisted. "You have enough," he said. "Why won't you do the right thing?" The right thing, like my retirement was a vending machine and they deserved the selection they wanted. Marissa leaned in, voice sharp under the sweetness. "If you keep refusing," she said, "the court can step in. The court does not ignore an older person acting out of fear and paranoia." Linda's voice cut in clean as a blade. "He already filed a report," she said, "and his lawyer has your fake emails. So keep talking. It helps." For one heartbeat, Marissa went still. Not scared, calculating, like she'd just realized the ground under her feet wasn't as solid as she thought. Tyler turned to her. "Fake emails," he said. "What is she talking about?" Marissa snapped. "Get in the truck, Tyler." He didn't move. "Dad," he said, "are you really trying to get us arrested?" I looked at him, really looked, and the sadness came in behind the anger. "I'm trying to stop you from ruining what's left of your life," I said. "But you're the one choosing this. You're the one using my name like it belongs to you." His eyes filled not with guilt, but with resentment. "You always pick everyone else over me," he said. "Everyone else. My dead brother, my own home, my own sanity." Marissa grabbed his sleeve and pulled him toward the SUV. "We're leaving," she said. They drove off, and the street went quiet again, but it was a quieter kind of quiet, the kind that comes right before something bigger breaks. When we walked up my driveway, a certified letter was sitting on my porch mat, a green sticker, bright like a warning light. Probate court. Linda watched me tear it open. The petition inside claimed concerns about my ability to serve as executor. It demanded an emergency hearing. At the bottom were the filer names, Tyler Caldwell and Marissa Caldwell, and a hearing date stamped in ink, next Tuesday. I need to be completely transparent about one thing before we continue. I could not finalize the chapter at the exact word count you previously specified for Chapter 3 because that number was not present in the messages visible to me in this turn. I wrote a full Chapter 3 that cleanly continues from Chapter 2 and ends on the probate hearing cliffhanger, but I have not yet locked it to the exact word target from your outline. If you paste the required word count for Chapter 3, I will immediately tighten or expand this chapter to hit that number exactly down to the single word without changing the story beats or continuity. Morning light didn't make my house feel safer. It only made the quiet feel louder. I hadn't slept so much as I drifted in and out, snapping awake at every creak. When I finally got up, I did what I always did when something started failing. I checked the basics. Deadbolt chain windows, back gate. Everything looked normal, which meant someone had been careful. Linda showed up early like she'd been waiting for permission to kick a door in. She didn't bring sympathy. She brought a notebook, a pen, and that look that said, "Stop hoping and start moving." "You look like you've been in a wreck," she said. "I feel like I have," I told her. "Show me," she said. We watched the camera clips together at my kitchen table. A raccoon, a cat, wind. And then, a few minutes after 3, a man stepped into frame like he belonged. He didn't hurry. He didn't hesitate. He stood on my porch, hands in his pockets, staring right at the camera. My throat tightened. "That's Tyler," I said. Linda leaned closer. "He wants you to know he can still reach you," she said. Tyler reached under the flower pot by the railing, lifted it, and slid something out. My spare key. The same spare key I'd hidden years ago back when family meant help, not leverage. He held it for a moment like a trophy, then put it back and walked off without knocking. Linda exhaled through her nose. So now we know what kind of game this is, she said. I changed the locks yesterday, I said. Every door. Good, she said. But locks won't stop them from trying to poison your name. She opened her notebook and started listing things the way she used to plan Thanksgiving dinner, brisk and matter-of-fact. Lawyer first, she said. Then police report, then probate. Frank's estate is the pressure point and Marissa knows it. Hearing my brother's name steadied me. Frank had built Caldwell Marine Supply from nothing, and before he died, he'd made me executor because he trusted me to do the hard, boring, honest work. Close accounts. Pay what needs paying. Sell the business clean. Protect the inheritance so it didn't get chewed up by bad decisions. And now my son and his wife were treating that work like a prize they could grab by pushing me over. We drove downtown. Linda insisted on driving. She said my hands were too tight on the wheel. I didn't argue. Randall Price's office sat above a pharmacy, the kind of place where everything smelled faintly of disinfectant and paper. Randall met us at the door, took one look at my face, and didn't waste time on small talk. Henry, he said, tell me everything from the beginning. I did. The lender calling to verify a mortgage file in my name, the mention of a power of attorney I never signed, the missing probate papers, the suspicious email activity, the porch video. Linda added the parts I would have softened. They're not asking, she said. They're taking. Randall listened like a man who'd seen this before and hated it every time. Then he folded his hands and spoke carefully. This isn't just family drama, he said. This is elder financial abuse, and it gets worse when the first attempt fails. The next move is usually control. They claim you're confused. They claim you're isolated. They claim they're scared for your safety. Then they ask a judge to give them authority over your money and your decisions. My stomach tightened. Conservatorship, I said. Randall nodded. Exactly, he said. And once that accusation is filed, it becomes a stain whether it's true or not. So we build the paper trail now before they get to write the story for you. He slid a form across the desk. First, police report for identity theft and forgery. Second, written fraud notices to the lender and your bank with that report number attached. Third, we notify the probate court that someone may be trying to interfere with your duties as executor. Then he turned his laptop toward me. And fourth, we address this, he said. An email thread was open on the screen. The buyer's attorney for Caldwell Marine Supply had sent routine questions. The replies were from an address that looked like mine, but the wording wasn't. Too polished, too cheerful, like someone pretending to be a kindly old man. The last email said I was overwhelmed, my memory wasn't good lately, and my son would be assisting with decisions going forward. It asked to delay the sale and redirect communication to a new contact. My vision narrowed. That wasn't me, I said. I know, Randall said. That's why it matters. Someone accessed your email and they used it to plant a record that you're forgetful. That's not accidental. That's groundwork. Linda leaned in, eyes hard. She's setting you up, Linda said. She's setting up the court, the buyer, everybody. Randall nodded. If the sale stall's creditors get nervous and the buyer can walk, he said, if the estate looks mismanaged, someone can petition to replace you as executor, and if they replace you, they gain access to the very thing they're circling the inheritance. The business precedes the whole family business legacy your brother trusted you to protect. I sat back in the chair and felt a cold clarity settle in. This wasn't just about a mortgage, it was about control. Randall slid another page across the desk. Your brother anticipated conflict, he said. Frank included a no contest clause in the will. Anyone who challenges in bad faith risks losing their share. And he restricted distributions until probate closes. Cooperation and honesty matter. A judge will care about that. Frank had seen the flaw in my son before I did. That truth sat in my chest like a weight. Before we left, Randall looked me straight in the eye. Do not meet them alone, he said. Do not let them inside. Do not argue on the porch. Let them talk. Let them slip. Calm is power in court. It felt wrong, because for 40 years I solved problems by speaking plainly and standing my ground. But this problem wasn't metal and concrete. This was my own blood trying to turn my life into a lever. Linda drove us straight to the police station. No lunch, no stopping to breathe. The officer who took our report didn't look shocked. That almost made me angrier. She asked for dates, names the lender, the suspected email access, and the porch footage. I gave her everything. She printed a case number and slid it to me. A fraudulent loan application is identity theft, she said. Forging authority documents is serious. Interfering with probate communications is fraud. Your attorney will move faster than we can, but this report gives you a record that starts today. Record, proof, a line in the sand. On the drive home, Linda's phone buzzed. She read the text, and her mouth tightened. They know you went to Randall, she said. She turned the screen toward me. A message from Marissa. Tell Henry to stop playing games. We can settle this as family. If he keeps pushing, we will be forced to take steps for his own protection. Protection, I said, and the word tasted like a threat. Linda stared out the windshield. That's her favorite costume, she said. Concern. She wears it like a badge while she steals. When we pulled into my neighborhood, Tyler's truck was waiting near the curb engine running. My chest tightened, but my feet still carried me out of the car. I was tired of being hunted in my own life. Tyler stepped out, hands open like he wanted to look harmless. His eyes were red. He looked exhausted, but he also looked angry, like I'd insulted him by saying no. Dad, he said, why are you doing this? I kept my voice flat. You were on my porch last night, I said. I saw you on camera. You took my spare key from under the pot. Tyler blinked too fast. I was checking on you, he said, checking on me by grabbing a key like you have a right to it. Marissa's SUV rolled up behind him. She stepped out wearing sunglasses even under a gray sky. She moved like she owned the street. Henry, she said, smiling, this is getting dramatic. Linda didn't let her charm land. Dramatic is putting a mortgage in his name, Linda said. Dramatic is hacking his email and trying to derail probate. Marissa's smile stayed in place, but her jaw tightened. We were trying to solve a problem, she said. Tyler and I have obligations. A mortgage. A wife deserves security. A wife deserves a husband who can pay his own bills, I said. Tyler flinched like I'd struck him. Marissa stepped closer, voice lower. You promised to help, she said. You talked for years about taking care of family. You encouraged us. Now you're acting confused and hostile, and people will start asking why. There it was, the trap. If I got angry, I'd be the unstable old man. If I stayed calm, I'd look weak. I took a breath and held the line. I never promised to buy you a house, I said. I never promised you my signature, and I never gave you the right to speak for me. Tyler's face twisted. You have enough, he said. Why won't you do the right thing? The right thing, like my retirement was a vending machine, and they deserved the selection they wanted. Marissa leaned in, voice sharp under the sweetness. If you keep refusing, she said, the court can step in. The court does not ignore an older person acting out of fear and paranoia. Linda's voice cut in clean as a blade. He already filed a report, she said, and his lawyer has your fake emails, so keep talking. It helps. For one heartbeat, Marissa went still. Not scared. Calculating. Like she'd just realized the ground under her feet wasn't as solid as she thought. Tyler turned to her. Fake emails, he said. What is she talking about? Marissa snapped. Get in the truck, Tyler. He didn't move. Dad. He said, are you really trying to get us arrested? I looked at him. Really looked. And the sadness came in behind the anger. I'm trying to stop you from ruining what's left of your life, I said. But you're the one choosing this. You're the one using my name like it belongs to you. His eyes filled not with guilt, but with resentment. You always pick everyone else over me, he said. Everyone else. My dead brother. My own home. My own sanity. Marissa grabbed his sleeve and pulled him toward the SUV. We're leaving, she said. They drove off, and the street went quiet again. But it was a quieter kind of quiet. The kind that comes right before something bigger breaks. When we walked up my driveway, a certified letter was sitting on my porch mat, a green sticker bright like a warning light. Probate court. Linda watched me tear it open. The petition inside claimed concerns about my ability to serve as executor. It demanded an emergency hearing. At the bottom were the filer names, Tyler Caldwell and Marissa Caldwell, and a hearing date stamped in ink. Next Tuesday. I need to be completely transparent about one thing before we continue. I could not finalize the chapter at the exact word count you previously specified for Chapter 3 because that number was not present in the messages visible to me in this turn. I wrote a full Chapter 3 that cleanly continues from Chapter 2 and ends on the probate hearing cliffhanger, but I have not yet locked it to the exact word target from your outline. If you paste the required word count for Chapter 3, I will immediately tighten or expand this chapter to hit that number exactly down to the single word without changing the story, beats, or continuity. I woke before daylight with my jaw clenched so tight it hurt to open my mouth. The house was quiet, but my head was loud, running the same ugly loop probate capacity guardianship, my own son signing his name under the word petitioner. Linda arrived before the sun, hair still damp, coat half-buttoned, carrying a paper bag that smelled like butter and cinnamon. "Eat something," she said. I tore off a piece of muffin and chewed like it was cardboard. I did not want breakfast. I wanted control, and that was not on any menu. Today was the cognitive evaluation, the one Randall had pushed for after Tyler and Marissa filed that first motion, claiming I could not manage my own affairs. The idea still made my skin crawl. I had kept engines running in the Coast Guard for most of my life. I had balanced budgets, rebuilt fuel lines, raised a kid mostly on my own after his mother left. Now, I was supposed to prove to strangers that I knew my own name. We drove to a medical building outside Annapolis beige walls, soft lighting quiet hallways that smelled like sanitizer and cheap coffee. The receptionist took my license, looked at my birth date, then smiled too brightly. "Spell your last name for me," she said. I spelled it. We waited quietly. They called my name and Linda stood with me. "Family cannot come back," the assistant said. Linda held her ground. "I am his support person," she said. "His attorney requested it." The assistant hesitated, then nodded and led us down the hall. Dr. Patel greeted me in a small office with a desk, 2 chairs, and a stack of papers that already knew my life better than he did. He shook my hand and looked straight at my eyes. "Mr. Caldwell," he said, "this will feel strange. It is not a pass or fail test. It is information." It felt like a test anyway. He asked the date, the month, the year, and who the president was. He asked my address, my phone number, my sister's name. He asked me to repeat 5 words. Then he buried those words under a pile of other tasks, naming objects, drawing shapes, copying a clock, face counting backward, subtracting 7s until my tongue felt thick. Halfway through, he leaned forward. "Do you feel anyone is trying to harm you?" he asked. That one landed different. My throat tightened because the honest answer sounded crazy if you did not know the facts. I took a breath. "I feel people are trying to take control of my decisions," I said. "That is not the same as believing the world is out to get me." He nodded and wrote. "Tell me about your routine," he said. I told him bills on Friday's groceries, every few days a walk, when the weather let me work at Frank's shop, when I could church once in a while, when grief did not sit too heavy. Quiet things, ordinary things. At the end, he sat back and folded his hands. "Your language is organized," he said. "Your recall is strong. Your reasoning is intact." Linda let out a breath that sounded like it had been trapped in her chest for weeks. When we left the office, I expected relief to hit me like warm water. It did not. I felt cleaner, yes, but not safe. A clean bill of health does not stop a liar from lying. In the parking lot, Linda called Randall and put him on speaker. "He did well," she said. "Good," Randall replied. "I expected he would." "So, we are done with this?" I asked. Randall paused just long enough to make my stomach tighten. "You are not done, Henry," he said. "You are better protected. That is different." Linda's voice sharpened. "What happened now, Randall?" "They went back to Caldwell Marine yesterday afternoon," he said. "Your son's key fob opened the back door." My mouth went dry. "I have not been there since last week," I said. "I know," Randall said. "That is why I pulled the entry log." The air in the car felt thin. Tyler had a key fob because Frank gave him one years ago, back when Tyler still showed up on Saturdays and pretended he cared about the place. I had not taken it back. I had not wanted another fight. That softness was going to cost me. I stared at my phone in my lap thumb, hovering over Tyler's name. Part of me wanted to call and demand an explanation, to hear his voice crack, to find the boy I used to carry on my shoulders at the county fair. Another part of me remembered the papers, the signatures, the way Marissa smiled when she thought she had cornered me. I did not call. I opened my notes app and started a timeline times dates, who said what, who touched what. If they wanted to turn my life into evidence, I would give the judge a map with no excuses. We drove straight to the marina. The shop sat where it always had, faded sign pallets of oil near the bay, door coils of rope hanging like tired snakes. The bell above the front door rang when I walked in, and 2 men behind the counter looked up. Luis was there, face-tight eyes wary. Beside him stood a younger employee with his cap pulled low and his shoulders stiff. "Henry," Luis said, "you all right?" I kept my voice level. "I am fine," I said. "I need to know what happened yesterday." Luis stepped out from behind the counter and drew me into the side aisle away from customers. "Your boy came in with Marissa," he said. "She had papers. She said they were stepping in to help because you were having trouble." Trouble, I repeated. Louise nodded once. She wanted me to sign something he said. She covered the words with her thumb and said it was just acknowledgement. I told her I do not sign for the estate without you. Good, I said. Louise kept going, voice lower. She started talking to customers, he said. Loud. She said you were confused and angry that you were accusing family of stealing. She said she was protecting you and protecting Frank's legacy. She said Tyler would run things until the court sorted it out. The words hit like a fist to the ribs. Frank had not even been gone a month, and they were already selling a story with his name on it. I glanced toward the front. The younger employee pretended not to listen, but his eyes kept flicking our way. What is your name? I asked. He swallowed. Evan, he said. Evan, I said, did you let them into the back office? His face went pale. She said she had authority, he murmured. She said you were sick. Louise snapped. You should have called me. Evan looked like he might bolt. I raised a hand. Enough, I said. He is not my enemy. I walked to the back office. Frank's office, and the smell hit me paper-old wood-stale coffee, the faint bite of fuel from the dock. Frank's chair sat behind the desk like it was still waiting for him. The top drawer was not fully shut. My hands went cold. Louise I said, did you touch this? No, he said. I opened the drawer. Ledger book, calculator, invoices, but the manila folder labeled buyer packet was gone. My chest tightened. They took it, I said. Louise swore under his breath. That folder held the draft sale agreement, the inventory list, the buyer's financing letter, everything Frank and I had put together to keep the shop alive after he died. It was not just paperwork. It was leverage. It was the kind of thing a greedy person could wave around to look official. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Dad, stop making scenes. You are proving our point. My stomach flipped hard. They were watching. Linda stepped into the doorway behind me. Do not answer, she said. I did not. I walked outside instead to the loading bay where the wind off the water slapped my face and kept me breathing. I called Randall. They stole the buyer packet, I said. Randall did not sound surprised. I suspected they would, he said. We have a second copy. The theft helps us. How does it help us, I asked. Because it shows intent, Randall said, and it fits with what they filed this morning. My throat tightened. What did they file? I asked. Emergency petition for guardianship over your person and your finances, he said. They attached statements from 2 people claiming you were volatile at the shop. Volatile. The word tasted like rust. When is the hearing? I asked. They asked for it within 48 hours, Randall said. We will know by the end of day. I stared out at the marina boats rocking gently, as if the world had no idea what was happening on land. A gull screamed, and the sound made me think of Frank, the way he used to bark a laugh when someone tried to hustle him. Linda came up beside me and laid a firm hand on my arm. We are not losing this, she said. I nodded, but my mouth was dry, because I finally understood something simple and brutal. They were not going to stop until a judge stopped them, and a judge could only stop what he could see. So I went back inside, sat at Frank's desk, and started making my own record, every missing file, every name, every minute, while the bell over the front door kept ringing and the tide kept turning. And somewhere out there, Tyler and Marissa were deciding what lie they would tell next. By the time I finished my list, my hand was cramped and my eyes burned from staring at Frank's desk lamp. Linda stood in the doorway of the back office, arms folded, watching me write like I was building a seawall out of paper. You are doing the right thing, she said. I wanted to believe her, but belief was a luxury. What I needed was proof. I wrote down everything that was missing: the buyer packet, the lease addendum, the signed inventory sheet, and the little yellow folder Frank used for vendor contracts, the one he always kept on the left side of his second drawer. I wrote down every person who had seen Tyler and Marissa in the shop, every customer Louise remembered them talking to every minute the back door had been open. When I finished, I stood and pulled the drawer shut until it clicked. The sound felt like a promise I could actually keep. Luis hovered near the doorway, trying to look respectful, while his anger leaked out anyway. Henry, he said, I hate to say it, but we need to change the locks. Key fobs, too. I nodded. Frank had always been easy about access, like being generous made him safer. He believed family was a shield. In a family drama, it is usually the first weapon. Do it, I said. Evan stepped forward like a kid walking into the principal's office. I did not know, he said. She told me you were sick. I looked at him and saw the truth. Not malice, just fear of conflict. and the instinct to obey the loudest person in the room. Marissa had that talent. She could turn people into tools without them realizing. "You are going to write what you saw," I said. "Only what you saw. Time, place, who said what." He swallowed and nodded. Linda tapped her phone against her palm. "Randall is calling back," she said. We stepped outside into the wind off the bay. The air smelled like salt and diesel. The same smell Frank used to joke was better than any cologne. Randall sounded calm in my ear, which was his gift and his curse. "Henry," he said, "the court granted a hearing. Tomorrow morning. Judge Harper." "Tomorrow," I repeated. "Yes," Randall said. "They requested emergency guardianship, and the judge agreed to hear it quickly because they are claiming imminent harm." "Imminent harm?" I said, staring at the boats rocking gently at their slips. The only imminent harm in my life was wearing a wedding ring and calling herself my family. Linda leaned close. "What do we do tonight?" she asked. Randall did not hesitate. "We gather sworn statements," he said, "from Luis, from Evan, from anyone who heard Marissa calling him unstable, anyone who saw her try to get signatures. We bring the neuropsych report. We bring the police case number. We bring your timeline. And Henry, do not argue with them in public. Do not raise your voice. Do not let them bait you into looking like what they are accusing you of." I felt my teeth grind. "They have already been baiting me for weeks," I said. "I know," Randall replied. "That is why we are going to make them talk on the record." When I hung up, Linda gave me a look like she was reading my thoughts. "You are thinking about driving to their house," she said. "I was," I admitted. "Do not," she said. "Not tonight. Not ever without Randall." Her voice had my mother in it, that same steel that used to stop me when I was young and stubborn and sure that anger made things right. We worked until the sky went dark. Luis wrote a statement describing Marissa's attempt to get him to sign something, her talk about taking over the family business, her comments about me being confused, her little performance for customers. Evan wrote his statement too, shaking while he did it, apologizing every third sentence, like his shame might erase the damage. I did not let him drown in it. "You made a mistake," I told him. "You fix it by telling the truth." He nodded, hard eyes wet. At closing time, I walked through the shop, slowly listening to the refrigerators hum and the dock lines creak. Frank's company was not just a company, it was my brother's life. Tyler and Marissa saw it as a prize. When I locked up, I noticed a new pickup parked across the lot engine, off headlights dark. Someone sat inside. Linda saw it too. "That is them," she said. The pickup did not move. It just watched. I kept driving hands steady because giving them a scene was exactly what they wanted. The house felt smaller at night. The quiet had edges. Linda made tea I did not drink and sat at my table while I organized the folder for court. On top went the neuropsych appointment summary, then the police case number, then the sworn statements, then my timeline. At the bottom, I slid in the thing I had not wanted to look at since Frank's funeral, the mortgage paperwork. It was the original sin in all of this, the reason they started treating my grief like a weakness they could exploit. 3 weeks after Frank died, Tyler and Marissa came with pastries and a folder. He talked about family, about parents and obligations, and she set the paperwork on my table like a gift. It was their loan package for a house they had already bought, a waterfront mansion. The price was $600,000 and my name was printed where the borrower should have been. "You have saved enough," Marissa had said, soft and sweet. "It is time to help your family." I said no, and she smiled like she did not hear me. Tyler tried again. "Dad, it is just temporary, just until we refinance." Temporary, I told him, is what people say when they want you to stop asking questions. When I refused, the tone changed. The next day, their lawyer called. The day after that, the first petition hit my mailbox. Then the shop, then the rumors, then the emergency guardianship. Revenge does not always look like screaming. Sometimes it looks like paperwork. Linda watched me slide the mortgage documents into the folder. "You still have not told Randall everything about that day," she said. I stared at my hands. "I told him enough," I said. "No," she said. "You told him the demand. You did not tell him what Marissa threatened." My throat tightened. She said if I would not sign, she would make sure I was excluded from Frank's inheritance, I said. She said she would turn the family against me, that she would make me look unstable until a judge took control. She said she had already talked to people at church. Linda's face went cold. Toxic family, she murmured. I almost laughed, but it came out like a cough. Tyler used to be different, I said. When he was a kid, he cried if he stepped on an ant. Now he signs petitions against me like I am a stranger. People change, Linda said, or they show you who they always were. I slept badly and woke before dawn with my heart racing. Outside, the street was still dark, and a thin winter rain tapped the windows like a nervous habit. Linda was already updressed, hair pinned back like she was going to war in a courtroom instead of a battlefield. She slid a travel mug toward me and set the folder between us. Eat something, she said. I took a bite of toast and tasted nothing. Every time my mind tried to drift, it landed on the same image my name printed on a mortgage for a house I had never chosen a debt dressed up as duty. We drove in silence until we reached the courthouse. I tried to read the signs, keep my brain on practical things, parking doors, security lines. But under all of it was the old ache of betrayal, the feeling that the people who knew my soft spots were the ones pressing their thumbs into them. When we pulled into the lot, Linda touched my shoulder. Remember, she said, you are not begging them for mercy. You are asking the court for justice. Hidden power, I thought, is not always money. Sometimes it is simply showing up prepared when everyone expects you to crumble. At the courthouse, the air was dry and cold. The floors shone like someone had polished them with anxiety. Randall met us outside the courtroom, tie-straight, eyes alert. He took the folder from my hand and flipped through it with the speed of a man who had read too many lies and knew exactly what to look for. This is good, he said. He glanced up. How are you holding up? I wanted to tell him I was fine, that I was a rock, that I could take whatever Tyler and Marissa threw at me. But fine was a fairy tale. I am angry, I said. Good, Randall replied. Just keep it inside your ribs until I tell you otherwise. Down the hall, I saw them. Tyler in a gray suit that looked new, shoulders squared like he was playing a role. Marissa beside him, hair perfect, eyes bright with that practiced concern. Their lawyer stood with them, tall, confident, the kind of man who looked like he had never carried a grocery bag unless someone was watching. Marissa spotted me and immediately put a hand on Tyler's arm, guiding him forward like she was the one in charge of the story. Dad, Tyler said, voice loud enough for the hallway. I flinched at the word, not because it hurt, but because it sounded stolen. Marissa tilted her head and smiled. We just want you safe, Henry, she said. The performance was flawless. If you did not know her, you might have believed her. Randall stepped between us. You can speak through counsel, he said evenly. Marissa's smile tightened. We did not think you'd come alone, she said. I am not alone, I replied. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. Linda stood at my side like a spine. Tyler's eyes flicked to her and away. He looked smaller for a moment, like the boy who used to beg me for a fishing rod. Then the lawyer leaned in and whispered something, and Tyler's jaw set again. Manipulation was easier than conscience. The bailiff opened the door and called our case. We filed in. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, more like a conference room with a flag than the stage of a high-stakes movie. But the stakes were real. If they won, they could touch my accounts, control my decisions, maybe even pry the company out of my hands while the probate mess was still fresh. A guardianship was a leash, and once it snapped onto your neck, it did not come off easily. Judge Harper entered, robe swaying, face unreadable. Everyone stood, then sat. My palms were damp. Randall put a hand on the folder in front of him like he was anchoring us to paper and truth. The judge looked down at the filings, then up at Tyler and Marissa. Mr. Caldwell, Judge Harper said you are asking this court to declare your father incapacitated on an emergency basis. Tyler nodded, eyes fixed on the bench. Yes, Your Honor. Judge Harper's gaze shifted to me. Mr. Caldwell, do you understand why we are here? I did, but I still felt the absurdity of it sitting in front of a judge because my son had decided my refusal was a disease. Yes, I said. Judge Harper held the petition in one hand and tapped it lightly with a pen. This says you are seeking control over your father's finances to protect him from exploitation, the judge said. Tyler's lawyer nodded and began to speak, describing concern, confusion, recent grief, sudden changes, all the greatest hits of a family, trying to look caring while grabbing the steering wheel. I listened without moving. When he finished, Randall stood calm and offered the neuropsych report, the police case number, the statements. The judge glanced through them, eyes moving faster than I expected. The room went quiet. Even Marissa stopped fidgeting with her bracelet. Judge Harper looked up again, this time at Tyler. "Mr. Caldwell," the judge said, "before we go any further, I need you to answer one question for me." Tyler swallowed. "Yes, Your Honor." Judge Harper leaned back slightly, as if the answer would tell him everything he needed to know. "If this is about protecting your father from being exploited," the judge said, "why did you file a lawsuit demanding that he pay your wife's mortgage for $600,000? Silence rolled across the room, the kind that makes you hear your own pulse in your ears. I watched my son blink like he had been slapped, his mouth opening and closing, once no sound coming out. Marissa stayed perfectly still for half a second. Then I saw her eyes sharpen, not with worry, but with calculation. Tyler cleared his throat. "Your Honor," he said, "that lawsuit is separate." Judge Harper did not move. "Separate," he repeated, voice flat. "The petition says you want to protect your father from exploitation. You filed a civil suit demanding that he fund your wife's mortgage, and you are asking me to take his rights away. Explain how those two things belong in the same sentence." Their lawyer stood, palms open, like he was trying to calm a dog. "Your Honor," he said, "the mortgage matter is part of a larger family dispute. This hearing is about capacity, not the merits of the civil claim." Randall rose slowly beside me. "Capacity does not exist in a vacuum," he said. "Motive matters, and the motive is on the first page of their own filings." Judge Harper nodded, once eyes still on Tyler. "Answer the question, Mr. Caldwell." Tyler swallowed Adam apple, bobbing. He looked at Marissa. She gave him a tiny nod, like a handler giving a cue. "It was not like that," Tyler said. "Dad offered to help us. He said it more than once. We relied on it." My stomach turned because it was the same lie dressed in different clothes. The manipulation always came with that tone, soft, reasonable, like I was the one being difficult. I leaned forward slightly. "Judge Harper, I said he never came to me for help. He came to me with paperwork already filled out with my name on it." Their lawyer lifted a finger. "Your Honor, the respondent is not under oath." Judge Harper lifted his hand. "I will decide who speaks and when, Counselor." He looked back at Tyler. "Mr. Caldwell, did you bring your father mortgage documents with his name printed as the borrower?" Tyler hesitated. Marissa shifted in her seat, the slightest twitch of impatience. "We brought him options," Tyler said, voice tight. "A way for him to help his family." "Help," Judge Harper repeated, "by putting him on the hook for $600,000. Marissa finally stood, face pulled into concern, shoulders rounded like she was carrying a burden. "Your Honor," she said, "my husband is trying to explain this is all being twisted. Henry is grieving. He is angry. He has been accusing us of stealing. He has been unpredictable." I felt heat rise in my chest. There it was again, the family drama they had been building, the story, where my refusal was proof of sickness. Judge Harper turned his gaze to Marissa. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said, "you are not the petitioner. Sit down." Marissa froze for a heartbeat, then sat slowly, lips pressed so tight they almost disappeared. Tyler looked like a boy caught between teacher's eyes, darting shoulders stiff. Randall stepped forward. "Your Honor," he said, "the petition says Mr. Caldwell is a danger to himself, that he is confused, that he cannot manage finances. Yet the same petition references his assets, his home, his inheritance, rights through his late brother estate, and they seek immediate control over all of it. This is not care. This is leverage." Their lawyer bristled. "Objection argument." Judge Harper waved him off. "It is a hearing. I will hear it." Randall opened our folder and pulled out a document. He walked to the clerk and handed it up, then turned to the judge. "This is the neuropsychological evaluation performed 2 days ago by Dr. Patel," he said. "It finds Mr. Caldwell fully competent with intact judgment and executive function." The judge scanned the first page, eyes narrowing slightly as he read. Then he set it down and looked at Tyler again. "So you filed this emergency petition after your father passed a full evaluation." Tyler licked his lips. "We did not see the report," he said. Judge Harper tilted his head. "Then why are you here today telling me he is incapacitated?" Tyler opened his mouth. Marissa leaned in toward their lawyer, whispering hard, her hand gripping his sleeve like she wanted to climb inside him and speak for him. Randall did not give them time to regroup. "Your Honor," He said we also have sworn statements from 2 employees at Caldwell Marine stating that Mrs. Caldwell came to the shop yesterday, told customers Henry was unstable, attempted to pressure staff into signing documents, and removed a packet of sale materials without permission. Marissa snapped her head up. That is a lie, she said, voice sharp before she could stop herself. Judge Harper looked at her again, and this time his expression went colder. Mrs. Caldwell, he said, you have been warned. Marissa sat back, eyes bright with anger now. Tyler stared down at the table like the wood might open and swallow him. The judge turned to Tyler. Did you go to the marina yesterday? Tyler shifted. We went to check on things, he said. Dad has been forgetting details. I felt my hands curl into fists under the table. Forgetting details, like I was an old engine with loose bolts. Randall moved in. Mr. Caldwell, he said, did you or did you not use your key fob to enter the marina office and remove a folder labeled buyer packet? Tyler glanced at his lawyer. His lawyer started to stand. Judge Harper lifted a finger. Sit, counselor, Mr. Caldwell answered. Tyler spoke quickly, words tumbling. We did not steal anything. We were organizing. We were trying to protect the family business. Protect, Randall repeated, and he let the word hang. Then he changed direction, voice calm, almost gentle. Mr. Caldwell, do you know what fiduciary duty means? Tyler blinked. It means like you are responsible, he said. Responsible for what Randall asked. For acting in someone's best interest? Tyler said, voice less certain. Randall nodded. And you believe it is in your father's best interest for you to control his money? Yes, Tyler said. That is why we filed. Randall stepped closer, but not too close, like he was keeping Tyler from using fear as an excuse. In your petition, you claim your father is paranoid because he believes you are conspiring against him. Yet you filed a civil suit demanding $600,000 from him, and you asked this court to strip him of his rights. Mr. Caldwell, if a stranger did that to you, would you call it help? Tyler swallowed hard. No, he muttered. Judge Harper leaned forward slightly. Speak up. Tyler lifted his head, eyes shiny now, not from remorse, but from pressure. No, Your Honor, he said. Marissa made a small sound, a tight breath, like Tyler had just betrayed her. Her hand slid onto his arm nails, pressing through fabric. Their lawyer stood again, voice firm. Your Honor, this is turning into a trial on collateral issues. The guardianship petition was filed out of genuine concern, regardless of any separate civil litigation. Judge Harper stared at him. Counselor, he said I have been on this bench long enough to know the difference between concern and a hostile takeover. You want me to hand over a man's life to the very people suing him for a debt he refused to sign? He paused. That requires extraordinary evidence. You have brought me none. A strange quiet spread through my chest. Not relief exactly, more like the first crack in a dam that had been holding back panic for weeks. Marissa could not help herself. Your Honor, she said, voice trembling with the kind of rage that pretends to be heartbreak. Henry promised. He promised at Christmas. He said it at Thanksgiving dinner. He said it after our wedding, that he would take care of us, that he would not let us struggle. We relied on that. He cannot just exclude us now. Exclude. The word hit me like a punch because it was not about love. It was about entitlement. It was about inheritance, about what she thought she deserved. Judge Harper looked at her. Mrs. Caldwell, he said you just said the quiet part out loud. Marissa stiffened. I do not know what you mean. You are not asking me to protect Henry, Judge Harper said. You are asking me to compel him, and that is not what guardianship is for. Randall spoke again, steady as a metronome. Your Honor, he said there is also the matter of the mortgage. The plaintiff's lawsuit is for the exact amount of the home they purchased a mansion, and they seek damages under theories that rest on alleged promises. But we have evidence the documents were prepared with Henry listed as borrower before any alleged agreement. That is not reliance. That is premeditation. Tyler flinched. Marissa stared at Randall like she wanted to scratch his eyes out. Judge Harper tapped his pen on the bench. I am denying the emergency petition, he said, effective immediately. Marissa gasped. Tyler sagged in his chair like someone cut his strings. Judge Harper kept going. I am also issuing a temporary protective order. Mr. Caldwell, you and your wife will have no contact with your father outside of counsel. No visits to his home, no visits to his workplace, no communication except through attorneys. If you violate that, you will be in contempt. Marissa started to speak. Judge Harper raised his voice slightly. Sit. Do not test me. The word contempt felt like a slap to her pride. I watched her swallow it, face flushing. Judge Harper turned to Randall. Mr. Pierce, he said, what do you want regarding the marina documents? Randall did not hesitate. Immediate return of any materials removed, and an order barring them from the premises, he said. We also request the entry logs and security footage be preserved. There is a pattern here, manipulation, intimidation, and taking what they want under the cover of family. Judge Harper nodded. Granted, he said, and I am referring the allegations of document theft to the appropriate authorities. If there is criminal conduct, it will be handled as such. Tyler stared up at the bench, eyes wide now. Criminal. That word had weight. It had consequences that did not care about his excuses. Marissa leaned close to him and whispered furious. I could not hear the words, but I saw the shape of them on her lips. You ruined everything. Judge Harper looked back down at his notes. As for the civil suit, he said that will proceed on its own schedule. But I will say this plainly. If I see further misuse of protective services, further false reports, further attempts to weaponize the system against this man, I will sanction you personally. He looked at Tyler when he said personally, like he wanted Tyler to feel every syllable. Then he looked at me. Mr. Caldwell, he said you have counsel. Keep it that way. Do not respond to provocation. You are angry, and you have every right to be, but your discipline is your shield. I nodded throat tight. Yes, Your Honor. The gavel came down, and it was over. For a moment, no one moved. The courtroom emptied in slow waves, benches creaking, shoes scuffing. Tyler stood with his lawyer's shoulders hunched. Marissa stood too, posture rigid, face bright with hatred and humiliation. In the hallway, she snapped. This is not done, Henry, she said, voice low, sharp. You think you won something. You just made it worse. Randall stepped between us again. Contact through counsel, he said. Marissa smiled, but it was not a real smile. It was a promise. Fine, she said. We will talk through court. We will take what is ours in court. Ours. Like I was a vault and she was the rightful owner. Tyler finally looked at me. His eyes were bloodshot, his voice thin. Dad, he said, please, we are drowning. You know that, right? My chest tightened at the word drowning, because it was the first honest thing he had said, and it came too late wrapped in the same demand. Linda touched my elbow. Do not answer, she whispered. I did not. I walked away. Outside, the air was colder than when we came in. A wind cut across the courthouse steps and made me pull my coat tighter. I could feel eyes on my back, and I knew Marissa was watching me like a predator watches a gate. In the car, Randall handed me a copy of the order. Guardianship denied, protective order granted. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt like I had survived the first wave and could already see the second forming. What happens now? I asked. Randall stared out the windshield for a beat. Now they pivot, he said. They will go all in on the $600,000 suit, and they will try to paint you as cruel, as selfish as a bad father. They will bring up your brother, your parents, every old wound, every Christmas. You missed every birthday forgotten, anything they can twist into a story of favoritism and injustice. I let out a breath I did not know I was holding. That is what she has been doing, I said. She has been building a narrative, a toxic family story where she is the victim and I am the monster. Randall nodded. Exactly. And Henry, he added, we need to talk about something else. Something you have not wanted to look at. My stomach tightened. What? The will, Randall said quietly. Frank will, the real one. The word will landed heavier than the gavel did. Frank and I had talked about it, but grief made everything feel unreal, like paperwork could wait, because death should have been impossible. Randall kept his voice low. I pulled the probate file this morning, he said. Tyler and Marissa filed a motion to freeze the estate and challenge your role as personal representative. They are claiming you are unfit, and they are claiming Frank intended the marina to stay in the family under Tyler. My jaw clenched. Frank never said that I said. I know, Randall replied. But they have something. A document. Not the will itself, but a handwritten note they are calling evidence of intent. I stared at him. A note. Randall nodded once. They say Frank wrote it. They are going to use it to argue you should be excluded from controlling anything the marina, the sale, the distribution. And if they can stall probate, they can stall the buyer, they can bleed the company dry, and then they can claim you mismanaged it. It is a trap. Linda swore under her breath. I sat back, hands numb. Marissa had not lost today. She had learned. She had watched the judge shut one door, and she was already walking toward the next one with a new key. Randall looked at me. We need to see that note, he said, and we need to find out how they got it. I looked out the window at the gray sky over the parking lot, and I felt something cold settle behind my ribs. Revenge is not always loud. Sometimes it is patient. Sometimes it is just you deciding you will not be moved. I turned the key in the ignition and pulled out slowly already, hearing Marissa's voice in my head, sweet and sharp, at the same time saying the same thing she always said when she wanted control. It is time to help your family. The tires whispered over the wet asphalt as I drove away from the courthouse, and the order in Randall's briefcase felt heavier than the whole building we had just left. Linda stared out the passenger window, jaw tight, like she was biting down on everything she wanted to say about my son and his wife. Randall broke the silence once we hit the highway. They filed an emergency probate motion, he said. They want the judge to freeze the estate, block the sale, and suspend your authority until a hearing. A freeze meant the buyer could walk. It meant my brother company could bleed out month by month until there was nothing left but debt and blame. Tyler and Marissa would point at the wreckage and swear I did it, and half the town would nod, because it was easier than admitting they had been conned. Linda turned toward Randall. "What about that note?" she asked. "Can we see it?" "We will," Randall said. "And Henry, do not take the bait. They are trying to push you into a confrontation. The protective order is your shield." At the courthouse annex, Randall guided us through a side entrance. The clerk on duty was a woman with silver hair in a bun and glasses on a chain. Her name tag said Marlene. She recognized Randall, gave him a tired nod, and then looked at me. "You are Henry," she said. I nodded. "I am sorry about your brother," she said quietly. "I am also sorry about the circus." She set a thick folder on the counter, slipped on gloves, and pulled out a clear sleeve, holding a torn piece of yellow legal paper. The ink looked dark and new, the kind of new that did not match grief. Randall leaned in. So did I. "Tyler should keep the marina in the family. Do not sell it. He deserves it." The note said in a careful, loopy hand that felt like a costume. Frank's handwriting was messy in an honest way, like a man writing fast while thinking about something else. This was neat, like somebody wanted a judge to be impressed. Linda pointed at the top edge. "Torn," she murmured. Marlene nodded. "Filed like that. No envelope, no date, no witness." Randall asked for chain of custody. Marlene slid forward a declaration from Marissa. She claimed she found it in the desk drawer at Frank's house. My stomach went cold. Frank's desk was not a place Marissa belonged, and she did not walk through life respecting closed doors. Marlene hesitated, then lowered her voice. "There is also a photo attached close up of the bottom corner. The motion does not mention it." She placed the photo down. In the corner, faint pressure marks showed words without ink, like a ghost from a missing page. The imprint read, "If he gets clean." Linda inhaled like she had been punched. Randall did not look surprised. He looked satisfied in a grim way. "That is why they tore it," he said. "They needed the gift, not the condition." I stared at that faint phrase until it felt branded behind my eyes. If he gets clean. Clean of what? Clean of who? On the drive to the marina, a memory surfaced, the kind that comes back sharp when you need it. 2 summers ago, Frank and I sat on the dock behind the shop eating overcooked burgers. He watched my son laugh with the guys on the fuel pier and said, "Tyler is a good kid, but he is weak." He said it like it hurt. Then he added, "I cannot hand him everything. Favoritism ruins men. If he ever takes over, it has to be after he earns it." I told Frank he was worrying too much. I was wrong. The front office at the marina looked the same, but the air inside felt different, tight and wary. Evan and Rosa, the younger mechanics, stopped talking when I walked in. Not fear of me, fear of the story. Linda stepped forward like a wall. "Morning," she said. "Henry is still your boss today." They nodded too fast. Randall asked to see Frank's desk. The drawer held pens, rubber bands, and a grease-stained spiral notebook. No loose legal pad, no torn page. Linda frowned. Frank used legal pads for anything official, she said. Randall tapped the oak lightly. "That note did not come from here." Rosa hovered in the doorway, hands twisting. "Mr. Caldwell," she said, "there is something you should know." I turned. "What?" She swallowed. Last Saturday, Mrs. Caldwell came by. She waited outside, then stopped me when I took trash out. She asked about Frank's storage unit by the highway. She asked if I knew the code. Linda took a step forward. "Did you tell her anything?" Rosa shook her head hard. "No, Mom." But she stayed. She made a call. A man showed up in a tow company jacket, but he did not tow anything. He walked with her to her car, and I saw her hand him cash. Randall's eyes met mine. That is our trail, he said. The anger rose hot and familiar, but dread sat underneath it like ballast. Frank's storage unit held spare parts, old ledgers, and personal files. If Marissa got into it, she did not just take paper, she took leverage. Randall stepped outside and called his investigator. I stood by my truck and stared at the water beyond the docks. Boats bobbed like betrayal was not real, and karma was optional. Linda came beside me. You are doing good, she said softly. You are not giving her the scene she wants. I swallowed. It feels like losing Frank all over again, I said, like someone is picking through his pockets while the body is still warm. Linda held my gaze. That is why we make the truth loud, she said. Loud enough that even people who want to believe her cannot. Randall returned, face set. The storage facility has cameras, he said. If she went in, we will get it. If she used a lockout service, there will be an invoice. And Henry, that imprint, if he gets clean, that sounds like addiction. Tyler never drank much, I said, then stopped. That was the old lie I told myself, the comfortable one. Randall nodded. People get hooked on more than whiskey. Gambling, pills, approval, chaos. Your brother wrote that line for a reason. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Randall lifted a hand. Do not answer. I answered anyway because my weakness had always been believing one honest conversation could fix a crooked person. A woman voice came through, steady but shaken. Mr. Caldwell, she said, my name is Denise. I was your brother hospice nurse. My throat went dry. Denise, I said. I saw your name in the paper, she said. I saw what they are saying about you, and I could not let it sit. Randall held out his hand for my phone, but I kept it for one more second. What did you see, Denise? She exhaled. The day after Frank died, Tyler and Marissa came to the house, she said. They did not come to grieve. They came to search. Mrs. Caldwell told me she was family, and that she had a right. She asked where Frank kept his will. I told her I did not know. She went into his office anyway. I heard drawers. I heard paper moving. Your son told her to hurry. Then they left, with a folder under her coat. My vision narrowed. Denise, did you tell anyone? I told the funeral director, she said. He said it was not his business, so I am telling you. Randall took the phone from me, then voice calm as steel. Denise, he said, will you sign an affidavit? Yes, she said immediately. I am tired of watching people use death like a coupon. When the call ended, Randall looked at me. They did not stumble onto a note, he said. They hunted for one. They stole. They manipulated. This is not just an inheritance fight. This is a fraud play. I stared at the marina sign at my brother's last name, fated by sun. The anger in me cooled into something cleaner, something precise. I am not too old, I said. Randall nodded once. Good, because when we get that storage footage, we are going to flip the tables, turned narrative on them with facts not shouting. My phone vibrated again, this time a text from Tyler. Please help us. I stared until the screen dimmed. The words landed like a hook under my ribs. For a heartbeat, I almost felt the old reflex, the soft father instinct, the urge to rescue. I remembered a Thanksgiving years ago when Tyler burned the turkey trying to impress Marissa, and I laughed and cleaned up the mess and told myself it was love to smooth the edges. That was the seed of this toxic family pattern, me patching the consequences, so he never felt them. Help was not a blank check. Help was a boundary, a hard lesson a lawyer and a judge who could see through tears for once today. Then I remembered the torn paper, the missing page, the way Marissa chose theft over family manipulation over respect and tried to turn my grief into a weapon. I slid the phone back into my pocket, started the engine, and followed Randall directions toward the storage facility, feeling the next trap waiting just beyond the bend in the highway. The storage facility sat behind a chain-link fence and a crooked sign that promised safety like a joke. I followed Randall and Linda through the gate, my heart thumping harder than it should, for a place that rented little metal boxes. Vic Mercer stepped out when Randall knocked, thick, neck-tired eyes, toothpick, moving like he was chewing on my time. We are closed to walk-ins, he said. Randall held up the court order, calm as stone. Evidence preservation, he said. We need the access log and footage for Frank Caldwell unit. Vic shrugged. I do not keep footage long. It overwrites. Then we copy what exists today, Randall said. Right now. If you refuse, you can explain that to a judge. The word judge landed heavy. Vic's jaw tightened, but he opened the door and waved us in. Inside the office smelled like burned coffee. Vic typed a password too slowly. Randall stayed close enough that Vic could not angle the screen away. "Show me last Saturday," Randall said. The monitor flickered, then a grainy hallway view filled the screen. My mouth went dry. Marissa came into frame first, hair pulled tight, sunglasses on. Tyler followed, shoulders hunched. A third man walked with them, carrying a small tool bag, the kind a locksmith keeps. Marissa pointed at a door. Tyler nodded and the man crouched. Frank Unit had never needed a locksmith. Tyler had a key, which meant they were not using a key, they were forcing a story. The lock popped. Tyler glanced around like a kid checking for teachers. Marissa did not even look nervous. She walked in like she owned the place. Minutes later, they came out carrying boxes, then a gray metal document case, then a small black lockbox, hugged to Marissa's chest. Tyler carried the gray case with both hands, careful, like he knew exactly what it was. Randall's voice stayed flat. "Copy it," he said. Vic hesitated, then finally grabbed a thumb drive and started the transfer. The progress bar crawled, and I watched it like a lifeline. When the file finished, Randall turned to Vic. "Now we open the unit," he said. "We document what is missing." Vic led us through rows of metal doors. At Frank Unit, a shiny new padlock hung there still bright. Linda looked at me, then took the bolt cutters Vic handed over. One clean snap, and the lock fell into the gravel. The door rolled up with a scrape, and cold air rushed out. Frank had shelves stacked with boat parts, manuals, oil filters, and boxes labeled in his crooked handwriting. It smelled like metal and dust and salt water, the smell of the marina, the smell of him. But something was wrong immediately. An empty rectangle on the back shelf, cleaner than everything around it. A missing case leaves a shadow. The gray document case had lived there, and now it was gone. Beside it, another empty spot, a box removed so neatly it felt rehearsed. Randall stepped inside, first gloved photographing from every angle. Vic hovered behind Linda, suddenly quiet. Randall pointed at the padlock shavings on the floor. "They changed the lock after they entered," he said. "That means they planned to keep you out." I scanned the shelves without touching. Bills, contracts, old pictures. The old pictures box sat half open, like someone had looked inside and decided memories were not worth stealing. In the back corner, a strip of fresh duct tape caught my eye, newer than the rest. I crouched and looked under the bottom shelf. An envelope was taped underneath, hidden where you would only find it if you knew it existed. My name was on it in Frank handwriting. Henry. My chest tightened. Randall followed my gaze, peeled the tape carefully, and slid the envelope free. Inside was a folded letter and a small flash drive. He handed the letter to me. "Read it," he said. "Just do not touch anything else." Frank's voice rose off the paper. "Henry, if you are reading this, then Tyler has done something stupid, or Marissa has done something wicked, or both. I am writing this because the marina is family business, not a toy. Our parents poured their lives into it. Our grandmother prayed over it. Every Christmas, we kept the lights on even when we were broke. Do not let grief turn into theft." My eyes burned. I have a will on file with my lawyer. Do not trust any last-minute note that shows up after I am gone. If they say I promised Tyler control, look for the condition, because I never promised anything without a condition. Then the next lines hit like a fist. Tyler has been gambling, enough that I covered him to keep the marina from sinking. I told him he had 1 year to get clean and make it right. If he tries to muscle his way in, he is excluded from managing anything, and his share is held back until he proves he can live like a man with character. I did not tell you because you would have paid his debt and called it love. You have always been too soft with him, Henry. That is your good heart and your flaw." I lowered the letter, staring at the shelves, like they might explain how my son became a stranger. All the little moments I ignored lined up in my head, the forgotten birthday call, the sudden cash requests, the way he always sounded rushed, like he was running from something. Linda finally exhaled. Frank knew, she said. Randall nodded. "And he planned," he said. "That flash drive is not sentimental. It is evidence." We sealed the unit back up and left Vic standing there with his own fear. Randall told him he was under subpoena now. Vic did not argue. He just nodded, swallowing hard. The tables had turned. In the hallway outside Randall's office, Linda touched my elbow, not gripping, just anchoring me. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips, the same pulse I used to feel when my father stood over me after a bad choice and waited for me to speak first. I had spent years telling myself I was different, that I would never rule my son with fear. Now I saw the cost of being too gentle. Revenge did not have to be loud, but it had to be real. Back at Randall's office, he plugged in the flash drive while Linda paced in tight circles. I sat with Frank, letter in my lap, the paper heavy as guilt. Folders popped onto the screen. Spreadsheets, receipts, emails. Randall opened a file labeled Loan Ledger. Tyler's name sat at the top. Numbers ran down the page, withdrawals and transfers that looked like they were chasing something that never stopped moving. My mouth went dry. How much, I asked. Randall scrolled to the bottom. 6 figures, he said quietly. More than you thought. Linda stopped pacing and covered her mouth. Randall clicked again. Here is Marissa, he said. Credit cards, balances, stacked like bricks. Luxury stores, travel furniture. A receipt from a real estate firm for the down payment on that house they called their dream home. And an email chain with a loan officer, Marissa, asking if an older parent could be added to strengthen approval, Marissa saying he has saved enough, it is time to help your family. It was not an argument, it was a script. Randall sat back. This is what a judge needs, he said. Tyler is desperate, Marissa is calculating. This lawsuit is about leverage. A knock came at the door. Randall's assistant stepped in, eyes tight. Henry, she said, you have a call. Your sister. I had not heard Karen's voice since Frank's funeral. I stood and took the phone. Henry, she said fast and breathless, Marissa is at Mom's house right now. She is crying in the living room, telling Mom you are stealing Frank, inheritance, telling her you are trying to cut Tyler out, that you are selling everything and leaving them with nothing. My heart clenched. Is Tyler there? Not yet, Karen said. But Mom is shaking. Marissa keeps using that word family like it is a weapon. I closed my eyes. She knows exactly how to twist parents in grief and old loyalties. Karen kept talking. She says you have to sign something to prove you are not a monster. She says if you do not, she will go to church and tell everyone you are abusive. Karen, I said do not let Mom sign anything. Tell Marissa she needs to leave. There is a protective order. Karen gave a short laugh. Henry, she does not care. She says God is on her side. Tell Mom I am coming, I said. I will be there soon. When I hung up, Linda was already grabbing her purse. We are not letting her corner your mother alone, she said. Randall picked up his phone. I am calling the sheriff, he said. Not to arrest anyone, just to document. We keep you clean. Outside the late afternoon, light looked hard and cold. As I walked toward my truck, my phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. Please, Dad, do not do this. Marissa says you are trying to ruin us. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. The soft part of me wanted to call him, wanted to reach back through the years and grab the little boy who used to beg me to help fix a bike chain. The harder part of me remembered the footage Tyler carrying my brother Case. Tyler letting Marissa clutch that lockbox like it was her right. I slid the phone away, started the engine, and headed for my mother's house, knowing the next confrontation was waiting in that living room. Rain started again as I turned onto my mother's street, the kind of soft winter drizzle that made every porch light blur. Linda followed in her car, steady behind me. Randall had called the sheriff on the way not to start a scene, just to keep the night from turning into a lie later, but my stomach still tightened like a fist. My mother's house sat quiet, white siding, dark windows, wreath still on the door, even though the holidays were long gone. Marissa's sedan was parked along the curb, angled like she expected to bolt. I parked and listened. Voices inside sharp, then hushed like people arguing in church. Karen opened the door before I knocked. Her eyes were red. She shook her head once, a warning. I stepped in anyway. Mom sat on the sofa with her hands folded in her lap. Eleanor Caldwell, 78, smaller than she used to be, but still proud, still stubborn. Marissa was in the armchair across from her, dressed in soft gray tissue pressed to her cheek, like she had been crying for hours. The room smelled like lavender cleaner and old wood, the same smell Frank grew up with, the same smell I used to think meant safety. Henry, Marissa said, voice gentle. Thank goodness. We can fix this. I did not sit. Mom, I said, are you all right? Eleanor looked up at me, love and worry tangled together. I am fine, she said, but Marissa says you are trying to sell the marina. She says you are cutting Tyler out. Marissa leaned forward, palms open. I did not want to come here, she said, but I could not watch this happen. Tyler is grieving. He is barely holding on. Frank would not want his nephew pushed out of the only thing he has left. The word family hovered in the air, heavy as a tool left on a chest. In this house, it always meant somebody was about to ask for what was not theirs. Karen stood near the fireplace with her arms crossed. I told her about the protective order, she said quietly. She did not listen. Marissa turned her head, slightly wounded on purpose. I am not afraid of paperwork, she said. I am afraid of what Henry is doing. I set my keys on the side table, slow, controlled. Marissa, I said you are under a protective order. You need to leave. Her eyes widened like I spoke a foreign language. Leave, she repeated, from his own mother home. Eleanor straightened, offended on instinct. This is my house, she said. Nobody tells me who can be here. You are right, Mom, I said. It is your house. I am not telling you. I am telling her the law. She is not allowed to be within that distance of me. Marissa let out a small laugh that sounded like a sob. This is what I mean, she said. He is angry. He is punishing us. He is letting revenge turn him cold. I swallowed the heat behind my teeth. I did not want to hurt my son. I wanted him to stop hurting everyone else. Marissa reached into her purse and slid a folded document onto the coffee table in front of Mom. I just need you to sign this, she said softly. It is only a statement that you want Tyler protected, that you are worried Henry is making rushed decisions, that you have concerns about his behavior. I leaned forward enough to read the top line, affidavit of concern. My name was there, and so was the word unstable. Mom, I said, do not sign anything she brings into this house. Eleanor bristled, pride flaring. Do not talk to me like I am a child, she said, and her hand moved toward the paper. A knock hit the front door, firm and official. Karen and I both froze. Linda stepped around us and opened the door. A deputy stood on the porch with rain on his shoulders. Evening, he said. We got a call for a civil standby. Marissa rose fast, face turning calm and concerned. Officer, thank you, she said. I was worried. Henry has been pressuring his mother. The deputy looked past her to Eleanor. Mom, are you safe? Eleanor lifted her chin. I am safe, she said. I do not like strangers in my house. The deputy nodded. Mr. Caldwell, he said to me, you mentioned a protective order. I pulled the paper from my coat pocket and handed it over. He scanned it, then looked at Marissa. Mom, he said, you cannot be here. You need to step outside. Marissa stared at him, then at Mom. Eleanor, she said, I am sorry. I only came because I love you. Please do not let Henry destroy what Frank built. The deputy held the door open. Marissa walked out and her heels clicked on the porch boards like a countdown. The deputy wrote a few notes, asked Eleanor if she had been threatened, then left after warning her to call again if anyone returned. The house went quiet in a way that felt like relief and grief at once. I walked to the window and watched Marissa stand under the porch light with the deputy head bowed, hands clasped like a saint. When she looked up, she caught my eye through the glass and smiled, quick and mean. Then she turned that smile back into sorrow before the deputy glanced her way. My mother did not see it. She rose and fussed with the coffee pot, hands shaking, and I realized she was more afraid of choosing sides than of being wrong. Linda stood behind me, silent, already reading the room like weather. Eleanor stared at the affidavit like it might bite. Why is she doing this? She asked. Why would she come here with papers? Because she is desperate, I said. Because Tyler is in trouble. Eleanor flinched at his name. Tyler loved Frank, she said. He can love Frank and still steal from him, I said. Both can be true. Karen took the affidavit, folded it, and put it in a drawer. No more papers tonight, she said. Eleanor looked at me, eyes shiny. You are acting like your son is a criminal, she said. What kind of father does that? I sat across from her, careful. Mom, I said I have evidence. Frank left a letter and a flash drive. Tyler has been gambling. Frank covered debts to keep the marina alive. Frank set conditions, real conditions, not promises, and Tyler did not meet them. Eleanor shook her head. Refusal first, fear second. Gambling, she whispered. No. Karen's voice broke. Mom, he borrowed money from me twice this year, she said. I wanted to believe him. A car door slammed outside. Headlights washed across the wall. Linda moved to the window. "It is Tyler," she said. He came in without knocking hair, wet eyes wide like a man running from something. He stopped when he saw me, then turned his face soft for Mom. "Grandma," he said. I did not know he would call the cops on Marissa. Eleanor half rose, arms opening. "Tyler." I stayed standing. I did not block him, but I did not step aside either. Tyler looked at me, anger rising. "You are enjoying this," he said. "You were always jealous of Frank. You want the marina for yourself." Karen snapped. "Stop it," she said. "Frank left Henry in charge. You know that." Tyler shook his head hard. "Marissa found proof," he said. "Frank wanted me to have it. Henry is hiding it." "Tyler," I said, "the note is torn because you tore it. The missing line says, 'if you get clean.' Frank did not hand you control without a condition because he knew you were gambling." Tyler went still. Then he spit the words out. "You do not know what you are talking about." Eleanor's voice turned sharp, the voice that used to stop Frank and me in our tracks. "Tyler, are you gambling?" she asked. "No," he said too fast. "Do not lie to me," Eleanor said. His shoulders sagged. "It started small," he said. "Sports. Then I had a bad run. Then I tried to win it back. I thought I could fix everything." Karen covered her mouth. Mom stared at him like she could not recognize her own blood. Tyler turned on me again, desperate now. "I need help," he said. "I owe people. Dangerous people." Linda stiffened. "Who?" Tyler shook his head. "It does not matter. They want the marina. They want access. Marissa said if you sign the mortgage papers, we can pay them off and make it go away." There it was, the real plan. Not family, not grief. Just a pipeline from my life to their debt. I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Tyler, I said you cannot fix this by chaining everyone else to your mistakes. You made choices. Now you face them." Tyler stepped closer, and for the first time I saw something in him that scared me. Not rage, a willingness. "You're going to get Grandma hurt," he said. Eleanor made a small sound. "Tyler." I held his gaze. "If anyone hurts her," I said, "it will be because you brought wolves to the door." His phone buzzed. He checked it, and his face drained. He stared at the screen, then looked at Karen. "Marissa already filed it," he whispered. "Filed what Karen asked." Tyler swallowed. "Adult Protective Services," he said. "Against Grandma. She told them Henry is exploiting her, that she is confused, that she needs a guardian emergency control." Eleanor sank back onto the sofa, eyes wide. "Guardian," she whispered. My phone rang. "Randall." I answered, and his voice came through hard and urgent. "Henry," he said, "they moved the hearing. Tomorrow morning. And now there is a guardianship petition for your mother. I need you at my office in 1 hour with everyone who can testify, because tonight is the only time we have left to build the wall before they try to tear your whole family down." The drive to Randall office felt like a race against my own pulse rain tapping the windshield. Linda stayed close behind me, my mother and Karen in her car, quiet shapes in the mirrors. Tyler did not follow, but the idea of him out there with his phone buzzing and Marissa whispering in his ear made my stomach churn. Randall met us at the back entrance and walked us straight into the conference room. A whiteboard showed Tyler and Marissa at the top, then my name, then my mother name with guardianship written beside it like a threat. Linda set down her bag and started pulling out folders with the calm speed of someone who did not waste time. Randall looked at Eleanor. "Tonight is about control," he said. "Tomorrow will be about evidence. Your job is to tell the truth and breathe." Eleanor clasped her hands tighter. "I have buried a husband," she said. "I have buried a son. I will not be bullied by that woman." Randall turned to me. "They filed 2 things," he said. "The lawsuit for the mortgage amount, framed as betrayal, and an emergency petition to appoint a guardian over your mother and a temporary administrator over the marina operations, claiming you are exploiting her grief. They are betting the court reacts fast before we can respond." Linda plugged in the flash drive, then opened the storage facility footage. The grainy hallway filled the screen. Tyler's face appeared, then Marissa carrying Frank's lockbox like it belonged to her. My mother made a small sound in her throat. Randall paused on the timestamp. "Day after Frank died," he said. Then he clicked to the scanned letter, Frank wrote the one that named Tyler gambling and warned that Marissa would push him to do something unforgivable. Randall looked up. This destroys their story that you invented all of this after the fact, he said. My phone buzzed with a text from Tyler. Dad, I am sorry. I did not know she filed guardianship. I can fix it. My hand tightened around the phone until my knuckles hurt. Randall held out his hand. Give it to me, he said. We preserve everything. Linda took screenshots, saved them labeled admissions. Randall slid papers toward my mother. This affidavit says you are competent, you are not being coerced, and you do not want Tyler or Marissa controlling your affairs, he said. Eleanor frowned. I do not like signing things at night. Randall nodded. Then we read it line by line and change anything that is not true. He read each sentence. Eleanor answered yes or no. When she signed, her hand trembled, but her back stayed straight. Karen signed as a witness. Linda notarized. Randall turned to Karen. We need your affidavit too, he said, about the money Tyler borrowed and the conversation tonight where he admitted gambling. Karen swallowed hard, then nodded. Randall leaned back. Now we need the spine, he said. If Marissa stole the lockbox, she stole whatever document proves she cannot win. I need to show the judge why they had to take it. He opened a thin blue binder. Frank operating agreement, he said. 6 months before he died, he amended it through counsel. The marina sits inside a family LLC. Frank created a trust for your mother benefit while she is alive, then named you as manager after, with rules that keep Tyler from taking control unless he meets specific requirements. Randall turned a page. Frank added a forfeiture clause. If any family member commits fraud, theft, or files a false report to seize control, their vote is voided and their distributions are suspended. Frank wrote it plain, like he was tying a knot that could not slip. Randall nodded. Marissa does not need to be right, he said. She needs chaos. Emergency guardianship gives her a chance to sign on Eleanor's behalf and muddy everything long enough to pressure you into paying the mortgage or selling the marina to cover Tyler debts. Linda slid a packet in front of me, payroll maintenance vendor invoices. This shows you are keeping the marina afloat and paying Eleanor bills, she said. Randall pointed at the whiteboard again and drew a box around the words, emergency petition. This is where we hit back, he said. We file our opposition tonight. We request an immediate hearing, and we ask for sanctions for bad faith. I asked what sanctions meant in plain English. It means the judge can make them pay for the mess they made, he said, and it tells the court who is abusing the system. Linda added that once the case moved, we could subpoena Marissa emails and Tyler bank records, bring in a forensic accountant, and trace every wire. For the first time that night, I felt leverage. Not power, not money, a way to stop them from rewriting our lives in ink. The next hour blurred. Linda printed exhibits. Randall drafted motions. Karen called a longtime dockhand who could testify that Tyler had not shown up for weeks. Eleanor sat by the window, staring at the river lights. I covered her hand with mine. I am sorry, Mom, she squeezed back. I am not sorry you are fighting, she said. I am sorry it took this to make Tyler tell the truth. Close to midnight, Randall's phone rang. He listened, face hardening, then hung up. They filed a supplemental declaration, he said. Marissa claims you threatened Eleanor and that a deputy removed her for her safety. Linda made a sound like a laugh with no humor. Randall nodded. We counter with the deputy report. Another text arrived from Tyler. They are outside my apartment. I think they know. Please help. The old father instinct surged in me. Randall watched my face. Do not go, he said. If he is in danger, we call police. If he is in trouble, he comes to us in daylight with honesty. You cannot save someone while they are still grabbing the knife. At 1 a.m, Randall stood. Go home, he told Eleanor and Karen. Sleep if you can. Be at the courthouse at 8. Linda will drive you. He looked at me. Henry, stay 1 more minute. When they left, the office felt too quiet. Randall closed the door. Tomorrow, he said, Marissa will cry. Tyler will look lost. They will talk about family and betrayal. You need to stay steady and let their own words do the damage. Outside, the rain had stopped. I sat in my truck without starting it. Hands on the wheel, breathing slow. I pictured Tyler as a boy handing me a wrench on the dock. Somewhere between that boy and the man begging me to rescue him, something had broken, and Marissa had learned exactly how to use the pieces. When I got home, I did not go to bed. I sat at my kitchen table and laid out the exhibit list like a map for surviving the morning. The sun was still hours away, but I could feel it coming, and with it, the courthouse lights, the oath, the lies, and the moment a judge would decide whether truth still mattered. My phone lay face down silent for the first time all night. Tomorrow was not just about a mortgage or a lawsuit. Tomorrow was about whether my mother could keep her dignity in the last chapter of her life. I whispered to the empty room that I would not let them take that. Then I stacked the papers and waited for dawn. Dawn came gray. I drank bad coffee and forced down toast because Randall said hunger makes people ramble. Linda arrived just after 7, hair pulled back, eyes focused. She helped my mother into her coat, then checked her purse for the folded affidavit like it was a passport. Karen followed pale but determined, carrying a grocery bag full of files. The courthouse parking lot was already filling when we arrived. A couple of locals stood near the steps pretending to talk, but their eyes tracked my mother like she was an exhibit. I felt the old urge to shout that they did not know her, but Randall's voice was in my head. Steady pattern evidence. Inside, a deputy recognized my mother's name from the report and softened a little. "Mrs. Caldwell," he said quietly, "I am sorry for the trouble." He confirmed what Randall expected. The call had come from Marissa. The deputy had not removed Eleanor for her safety. He had offered to escort everyone out because the argument was loud. Linda asked him for the incident number and he gave it. In the hallway outside the courtroom, Tyler sat on a bench with his lawyer, shoulders rounded, hands clasped so tight his fingers looked numb. Marissa stood a few feet away, dressed like grief black suit, pearls, tissue in hand, face arranged into careful suffering. When she saw my mother, her mouth trembled in a way that would have fooled anyone who did not understand performance. Tyler looked up and met my eyes for a second, then looked away like he could not afford to see me as real. Randall arrived with a briefcase and a calm that made everything else look foolish. He leaned in close to me. "Do not look at her," he murmured. "Look at the judge. Let her act." We respond. The bailiff opened the doors. The room smelled like old wood and disinfectant. We took our seats, my mother between Karen and Linda, hands folded back straight. Randall set our exhibits on the table, like tools laid out before a repair. Across the aisle, Marissa dabbed her eyes. Tyler stared at the floor. Their lawyer whispered fast. "All rise," the bailiff called, and every chair scraped at once. The judge stepped in, tired eyes, firm mouth, the look of someone who had seen too many families turn love into paperwork. She settled behind the bench, glanced at the stacks, then looked straight at Tyler and Marissa. Her gaze did not soften. It sharpened, and I felt the whole room tilt toward whatever question she was about to ask. The judge did not waste time with speeches or small talk. She adjusted her glasses, looked at the case captions, then looked straight at my mother as if she wanted to make sure the most vulnerable person in the room still had a face, not just a file number. She asked my mother to state her name for the record, then asked her if she understood why we were there. Eleanor answered in a clear voice, and in that moment, I saw something settle in the judge's expression, a kind of quiet respect that comes from recognizing a person who has survived more than the court ever will. Tyler lawyer stood first. He tried to paint it as concern of family, stepping in before an elderly woman was taken advantage of. He used words like safety, dignity, best interests, and he kept glancing toward Marissa like she was his star witness. Marissa sat with her tissue in one hand, her other hand resting on Tyler's knee, a staged little picture of devotion. Randall stood when it was our turn, calm as a man reading a weather report. He told the judge we would address the guardianship first, because once you understand the motive, the money claim explains itself. He said the guardianship petition was not a shield, it was a crowbar. He said they were trying to pry my mother's life open, so they could reach the marina the family business Frank built, and pressure me into paying a $600,000 mortgage tied to Marissa's name. Marissa lawyer objected, called it speculation. The judge lifted a hand and shut him down with one look. Then Marissa took the stand. She walked like she was carrying a cross. She said Eleanor was like the mother she never had. She said the day Frank died was the worst day of her life. She said Tyler had been fragile and I had been cold. She said I was manipulating grief, using the will and the inheritance to exclude Tyler out of spite. She said I had become obsessed with revenge, that I wanted payback, that I had turned family into an enemy. She used words like toxic, like betrayal, like injustice. She said she tried to speak to me at Christmas, tried at Thanksgiving dinner, tried again on Frank's birthday that I supposedly forgot, and every time I shut her out. She said I acted like a man who thought he was king because he ran the company like favoritism gave me the right to decide who deserved love. It was a good performance. If I had been watching from the back row without knowing the facts, I might have believed her too. But the judge was not watching a play. She was watching for cracks. Randall let Marissa talk. He let her spin her story until she was comfortable, until she started believing she owned the room. Then he walked to the clerk and handed up the protective order. The judge read it, then looked at Marissa like she was seeing her for the first time. Randall asked Marissa if she had been served with that order. Marissa said yes. Randall asked if she violated it at my mother's house. Marissa tried to pivot, said she went out of concern for Eleanor. Randall asked if she left that house because law enforcement told her to. Marissa hesitated, then said yes, and in that hesitation, I felt the air in the courtroom shift. Randall asked the deputy report number into the record, then asked the judge to take judicial notice that the deputy did not remove Marissa for Eleanor's safety. He removed her because she was violating a court order and escalating a conflict. The judge made a note without looking up. Then Randall asked the question that made Marissa blink too many times. He asked her why, if her only goal was protection, she brought an affidavit to my mother that labeled me unstable and asked Eleanor to sign it. Marissa said she just wanted documentation, just something to show the court Eleanor was worried. Randall asked her who wrote the affidavit. Marissa admitted it came from her lawyer. Randall asked why it needed to be signed the night before the hearing and why it used the same language as the guardianship petition. Marissa started talking faster the way people do when they feel the floor moving under them. Randall asked if she had any financial interest in the outcome of the guardianship. Marissa gave the answer she thought sounded noble. No, she said. This is not about money. Randall nodded slowly. Then he asked to publish an exhibit. The storage facility video played, grainy, quiet, undeniable. Marissa and Tyler in a hallway, Marissa lifting Frank's lockbox into her tote like she had done it before. Tyler scanning the camera like he knew it was wrong. Marissa's face went still. Tyler looked like he had swallowed something sharp. Randall asked Marissa if that lockbox belonged to Frank. Marissa said she did not know. Randall asked if she recognized herself in the video. She tried to claim it was someone else. Then the judge leaned forward and said, "Mrs. Larkin, do not insult my eyesight." Marissa's voice cracked, and for a second, I thought she might actually cry for real. Then she recovered and said Frank wanted them to have documents, that Frank trusted Tyler, that Frank meant for Tyler to inherit. Randall did not argue. He simply asked what was inside the lockbox. Marissa said legal papers, important things. Randall asked if one of those important things was the operating agreement amendment Frank signed 6 months before his death, the one that set conditions for management of the marina and distributions to family. Marissa's eyes flicked toward her lawyer. Randall saw it. He turned to the judge and asked permission to call Tyler as a witness because Tyler was not only a plaintiff, he was also the person asking to control my mother's life. The judge granted it. Tyler walked to the stand like a man going to his own sentencing. He swore the oath, and when he sat down, he kept his eyes on the wood rail in front of him, like if he stared hard enough, he could disappear into it. Randall started gentle. He asked Tyler if he loved his grandmother. Tyler said yes. Randall asked if Tyler wanted to protect her. Tyler said yes. Randall asked if Tyler believed he should be the one making her decisions. Tyler said yes, because he was family. Then Randall asked about the debt. Tyler denied it at first, and I watched him do what he had always done since he was a teenager, test the room for softness, hunt for a way out without paying the price. Randall did not raise his voice. He simply handed up Karen's affidavit, then played the audio snippet Linda recorded at my mother's house, Tyler's own voice, admitting gambling, admitting people were outside his apartment, admitting he brought wolves close to Eleanor's door. Tyler's shoulders sagged. Randall asked him about the mortgage. Tyler tried to call it a misunderstanding, said it was supposed to be temporary help a bridge. Randall asked whose mortgage it was. Tyler said, Marissa. Randall asked why the amount was $600,000. Tyler said it covered the purchase and the payoff. Randall asked payoff of what? Tyler went quiet. The judge watched him, not angry, just tired, like she had seen this pattern for decades. Sons turning love into entitlement, daughters-in-law turning grief into leverage, families turning into lawsuits, because nobody could stand the word no. Randall asked Tyler if he had asked me for help honestly before the lawsuit, before the guardianship. Tyler said he tried. Randall asked if trying meant handing me papers and telling me I saved enough, it is time to help your family. Tyler flinched because he knew the ugliness of it now spoken out loud in a courtroom. Randall asked Tyler if he understood what happens when you file a false report to seize control of an elderly person's life. Tyler mumbled that he did not mean it like that. Randall asked him if he understood what happens when you steal documents from a storage unit. Tyler looked at Marissa, then backed down. He said Marissa told him Frank wanted it. Randall asked him if he believed Frank would want him to take his grandmother's rights away. Tyler's voice broke. He said he did not know anymore. That was when the judge asked the one simple question, and it did not sound like a trap. It sounded like a reality check. She looked at Tyler and asked Mr. Caldwell if you were not trying to get money, why did every step you took lead to money? No speech, no anger, just that question clean and sharp like a blade that cuts through rope. Tyler opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He looked at Marissa like a man looking for a lifeline, and Marissa's face did not offer love, it offered panic. In that moment, Tyler saw what I had seen, that he was not her husband, he was her tool, and a tool is only valuable until it breaks. The judge turned her gaze to Marissa. Mrs. Larkin, she said, are you asking this court to believe your petition is about protection when your own conduct shows a coordinated attempt to gain control of assets? Marissa snapped and tried to lunge back into performance. She started talking about family, about Frank wishes, about being excluded, about how unfair it was that I got to run the marina while Tyler got grief and nothing else. She said inheritance should not be a punishment. She said my brother would be ashamed of me. Randall waited until she ran out of air. Then he handed up Frank's letter, the one that warned about manipulation, the one that called Marissa by name, the one that laid out the hidden truth of Tyler's addiction, and the reason Frank changed the operating agreement. The judge read it silently. The room held its breath. Marissa's lawyer stood and objected, called it hearsay. The judge overruled. This was a probate-related business dispute tied to motive, she said. She kept reading. When she looked up, her eyes were colder. She denied the emergency guardianship on the record. She said Eleanor Caldwell was competent, coherent, and clearly not being coerced. She said Tyler had presented himself as a protector, while evidence showed he was acting under financial stress and outside influence. She said Marissa violated a protective order, attempted to procure an affidavit through pressure, and removed property from a storage unit without authorization. Then she dismissed the $600,000 claim as frivolous, stating the court does not compel adult children or siblings to pay another adult mortgage because someone said family. I felt my chest loosen like a knot undone. But she was not finished. She addressed the marina operating agreement. She acknowledged Frank's amendment, and she stated that based on the evidence of theft and the filing of a bad faith petition, the forfeiture clause was triggered. Tyler's rights to vote on management decisions were suspended. Any distribution to him from marina profits would be held in escrow pending resolution of criminal investigation and compliance with treatment conditions named in Frank documents. The judge said it plainly. Actions have consequences, and this court will not reward fraud with control. Marissa made a sound, not a sob, more like a choke, and I saw her mask crack in real time. She stood like she wanted to shout, but the judge held up a hand. Mrs. Larkin, she said, you will sit down. If you speak out of turn again, I will hold you in contempt. Marissa sat trembling. Tyler sat too, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. The judge then said she was referring the matter to the district attorney for review of potential charges, including theft, filing a false report, and perjury. She also ordered Marissa and Tyler to pay our attorney fees as sanctions for bad faith, because the court time was not their personal stage for family drama. The gavel came down and the sound felt like a door finally closing. In the hallway, Marissa stormed out first, heels snapping face, stripped of tears, stripped of softness, pure rage. Tyler followed slower. He caught up to me near the exit, eyes, red shoulders shaking. Uncle Henry, he said, please. I did not want it to go like this. I looked at him and saw both things at once. The boy who used to run the docks with wet hair and a grin, and the man who brought wolves to his grandmother's door. Loving him did not change what he did. I told him I would not pay Marissa mortgage, not now, not ever. I told him the marina was not a slot machine, and my mother life was not collateral. Then I told him something I had been holding like a stone in my throat. I told him I would pay for treatment, real treatment, inpatient, if needed, because Frank would not want him dead. But I would not protect him from consequences. He would face whatever came next, and he would do it sober, because the only way out of addiction is through truth. Tyler cried harder at that, not because he was losing money, but because for the first time, someone had drawn a line and called it love. Linda stepped beside me and handed Tyler a card for a counselor and a number for a reputable rehab. She told him if he wanted help, he would call himself. No more letting women or fear do his talking. My mother touched my arm. Her hand was warm, steady. She said, "Henry, you did right." She looked past me at Tyler and said, "Baby, I love you. I will not be used. Come back when you are ready to be honest." Tyler nodded, and for once, he did not argue. Weeks later, the dust settled the way dust always does after a storm, slowly with grit in your teeth. Marissa filed for divorce. She tried to threaten me through her lawyer, then stopped when the district attorney subpoenaed her phone records and the storage facility filed its own complaint. The tables turned on her so cleanly, it almost felt scripted, but it was not script. It was karma, plain and unromantic. Tyler checked into treatment. He relapsed once, then went back, and that second time, his eyes looked clearer. I did not hug him and pretend everything was fixed. I just told him I was glad he showed up. The marina kept running. I hired a manager to handle daily operations, and I put my mother's name on a protected account so no one could ever use her signature as a weapon again. I updated my own will too, not out of spite, but out of clarity. I built in safeguards, the kind older men learn to build when they finally accept that love without boundaries is just another kind of negligence. One afternoon, I stood on the dock alone and watched the tide roll under the pilings. I thought about Frank, about the way he planned for this, without telling me like he was leaving me a compass instead of a fortune. The hidden truth was not money. It was that he knew exactly who would try to take advantage, and he built a system where character mattered more than entitlement. I learned something too. Revenge is not always fire and shouting. Sometimes revenge is just refusing to be manipulated, refusing to be ashamed for saying no, and letting the truth do its quiet work until the lies collapse under their own weight. If this story hit you anywhere personal, if it reminded you of a brother, a son, a toxic family member who thinks love means access, tell me where you are watching from, and tell me if you think I did the right thing by offering help without paying the mortgage. And if you believe family should come with respect and accountability, not just demands and guilt, I would be grateful if you hit like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs a little backbone today.